Yo, 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 everybody, what's going on? Welcome to episode 20 of Climbing the Ladder. I'm your host, ChanmanV, and joining me as always is John Clark, Executive Director of CSN. What's up, John?
Not much. Getting tired.
Oh, great, great. Also joining us, or co-hosting with us as always, will be Mark Faraz, CEO of Quantum Gaming. He'll be joining us in a second. He's in a meeting right now, but I figured we'd get the show started. But we got two great guests tonight. First off being none other than Conan Liu, a.k.a. EG.SuppyRC. I'm not used to saying that RC at the end yet, but as you know, obviously probably know Suppy. He has kind of had a huge breakout summer. I think he used to be on Check 6 and now is on Evil Geniuses, and he's kind of joining us from school, right, at UC Berkeley.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, and yep, so. Obviously, great player and a great Zerg player, and it'd be great getting player perspective from him on a lot of the topics that we're going to be discussing tonight. Our second guest is, you guys probably aren't quite as familiar with. I know, a lot of the industry folks, know Jingna, but it's Zhang Jingna. She's the owner of infinitySeven. But not only that, she's a pretty well-known, established, renowned photographer in the deviant art and fashion industry. Let's just put it to you this way, guys. All right, a lot of the guests that we have, they have Liquipedia pages, but Jingna actually has Liquipedia pages, but Jingna actually has a Wikipedia page. Okay, so she's actually more than someone, or more of a someone than a lot of the folks that we have on this show. So, but she's won lots of awards, had their own exhibits, so she's like a huge photographer. So, hopefully you guys can check her work out there. But there's an esports show, so we probably won't be talking about too much photography. But how you guys doing? Like, how was the holidays and Labor Day for you guys?
In Singapore it's May, so we're running on very different schedule.
It's May in Singapore?
Yeah, for like Asia. Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
They don't actually like say it's May, right? It's just like the summer, like beginning of summer or something?
No, 1st of May. That's
oh,
Labor
really?
Day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I didn't realize the actual. Yeah, I didn't realize the actual calendar dates were different over there.
Yeah, I actually got a shock when I was in the U.S. too. People were like, "It's Labor Day." I'm like, "What?"
What the hell is Labor Day? Right?
Yeah.
John, what about you, man? Barbecues? Oh, you were working, right?
Yeah, I was working. So ran a garage sale on Saturday. That's about
all
it.
right.
No, and then I did, CSN stuff all weekend.
Okay, well, that's cool. How about you, Conan? Are you actually from the Bay Area, like your family and stuff,
yeah.
or?
Yeah, I live around the Bay Area.
Okay.
I live like 25 minutes from Berkeley.
That's not getting away from the nest too far from the nest there.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Do you guys catch the PAX event by chance?
Yeah, I was there actually.
Oh, that's right. You were. Did you play in the trials of Sonaga? I didn't.
No.
Okay.
I played in ESWC. It was the qualifier for the national or international tournament.
Right. Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were. I think there were 8 players there. Is that right?
Yeah, it was really small.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get too much attention. So.
Yeah. I think it's like you and Hendrix in the finals, right? Was that right?
No, me and Hawk.
Oh, you and Hawk. Yeah, not him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He 3-0'd Idra.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Hawk
3-0'd me.
Yeah, he had a really good tournament there. I mean, good thing Mark's not on here, else he'll be rubbing it in probably. But yeah, I mean, the PAX event was. I mean, John, did you catch any of it? I mean, the.
No, I mean, I try to tune in, every once in a while to some things, but
Yeah.
I mean, I really wish I would have been able to tune in more to just all sorts of PAX stuff, but I wasn't able to.
Yeah, the international too, and actually that and the day 9, the Trial of Zelnaga events were, I don't know, they were awesome, at least from my standpoint when I was watching it from home. Were you at any of those events live, Conan? Like, did you actually go to any of the TI2 stuff, or?
I didn't get a chance to go to the international, but I did check out the LoL events, and I have to say the LoL production was like way better than anything StarCraft has ever had. And
Dude, you think the LoL production was, dude? You should have seen the TI production at least.
Yeah,
from our
I can only
standpoint.
imagine.
It was amazing, dude. I mean, like the only thing that was like a little bit, I don't know, it was a little anticlimactic was the end because they didn't do an interview with the Chinese team. Oh God, who won? Not LG. God, I'm like drawing a blank, but they didn't do an interview with them when they were like screaming and going nuts and stuff. So that was about the only letdown. But man, Valve did an awesome job, and I don't even play Dota 2, man, and I was like getting all excited watching. So it was really cool. But anyways, so I wanted to start off the show kind of with our typical topic of going over any kind of misconceptions in the industry that we think might be running prevalent. And yeah, so I kind of wanted to ask, both Jingna and Conan, if you guys, is there anything like that you think the community has wrong right now? Maybe in regards to team management or maybe even just the players, anything like that.
Sophie, you want to go first?
Yeah, I just had, I think one misconception is I feel like, people pay way too much attention to like the top tier teams, but actually they don't recognize that like lower tier teams are actually really good too. So like a lot of people don't know about ESEA, which is a very kind of under the radar tournament, but it's really awesome because you can see like some of the up and coming teams, and people haven't heard of them at all, like Area 51. My Intent. These are all teams that are actually pretty good, but people always like just think they're so crappy. Like I remember when I was on Check 6, everybody's like, Check 6 is like the worst team ever. Like they have a Diamond Protoss and they have like a low Masters like whatever. And I think like people should follow ESEA and stuff like that more. Get to know the up and coming scene more. I think that'll really help like get more teams out there and grow their players, stuff like that. So, for example, infinitySeven won ESEA last season. So
that's true.
Really, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's hard though because those tournaments, you have so many major tournaments, and I think there's already a saturation in that right now. So people tend to just not really have time or the attention to divide to look at everything that's out there. So I think it's a lot up to the bigger names, of course also smaller tournaments themselves, to try to really promote it as much as they can. Because I know, we've been on EC for like 3-4 seasons now, and only now are they getting regular casters trying to do all the matches regularly.
Yeah, the production's definitely, ramping up a bit. It's always been a little, I'm not going to say it was run poorly. It's actually run pretty well, but production value, it's never been as high as like some of the obviously the major tournaments, just because it's a money issue, right? But yeah, I totally agree
with that. I'm sure there are volunteer casters out there too. It's just really keeping a consistent schedule and doing as many matches as they can, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I definitely enjoy trying to find the next, the next big players, right, or the next kind of talent that's kind of coming up the ranks. But it's hard. Me and John have talked about this like a ton, right? It's hard for we're going to get into this with the whole topics coming up. But for the smaller teams, you know, it's like, are they just basically training grounds for, you know, for basically the bigger teams? I mean, is that what it ends up being?
I think it's hard because, I mean, I think a lot of people are passionate to try to start teams and stuff. I guess like what I tried to do, but I think the new teams that were around at the time when I started IS, only Quantic and Gosu are still around. Still doing well on the radar, I guess. And
right.
I mean, there's us, but overall, it's like really hard to gather the right people and keep players motivated, because I think one of the misconceptions is that teams will have money, and I mean, of course, Quantic is, I think, financially well off right now, but like, say, for us, IS, I think, because we have players like Crazy Moving was in the GSL, and XLab is at a lot of events, so people tend to think IS would have, because, oh yeah, they have big name sponsors, but, you know, maybe our contract, for example, was signed when we were just a no-name team, and maybe it's just product support, and then all the rest of the money could just be coming from me. So then signing on a new player who requests for, like, I want to go through all the MLGs and all the IPLs when they don't really have much results, it's just something that we can't really support, right?
Right. So, I mean, you know, from a management standpoint, right, you know, how much of it is it right now just like all the decisions are being made, I mean, purely from you at this point? I mean, I think they've always probably been made by you, but like how much of even just the research and that type of stuff is being done by you at this point?
It's just mostly been me all this time. I have had player managers and assistant managers who help out, maybe 2 or 3 staff at a time, but real life commitments, school, you know, people come and go, and so most recently I've been purely just on my own for the team for a couple of weeks, almost a month. Then that's why I set out the post on Reddit to ask for help, volunteers.
I see, and you've gotten a lot of applicants, right? Recently?
Yeah, we did.
That's great.
Like over 100 emails, like 150, and it's just really touching because a lot of the people, like, I might have heard of them or they were around, and you also hear their stories about how much or how they have helped or tried to contribute to esports, and makes you feel less alone, because sometimes trying to do everything on your own does feel really, really alone and painful.
So, you know, we've talked in the past about how, you know, a lot of esports organizations rely heavily on volunteers, including CSN, right, John?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, it sounds like the case, obviously, with infinitySeven, too. Talk to us a little bit about, I mean, do you have issues with working with volunteers? Or, you know, have you had a just pretty much good experience with it? I mean, versus, you know, somebody like an employee that's paid, I guess. I mean, comparing the two, I mean, you know, has your experience been good with having volunteer staff?
Overall, for me, it's been good. Sorry, I thought the question was for John.
No, it's for you. It's for you.
Yeah,
no, we've talked to John plenty. We don't care what he says.
For me, it's mostly been good because, I mean, you try to talk to them a lot and find out how they are. I mean, in photography, like, I always put together my own teams, and we go through a lot of people for a lot of different projects. So I think I do have usually a pretty good read on how people are. So I think it's fine. Yeah, it's just really time commitment is an issue, because real life generally always take, you know, priority over the game side of things.
Yeah,
and that's a perfect. You know, you were saying earlier that that the misconception is that you know, teams have a lot of money, and here you are putting out an ad for volunteers because that's what you have to have. I mean, it's
yeah. I had some people
that get paid.
Yeah, exactly. Some people were like, "You run a team, and how do you expect to run it without paying people?" And it's reply, "Well, I mean, I ran it on my own all this time. You know, if no one volunteers, and well, then I'll just carry on, right?"
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of is a good segment into really trying to let's get a kind of a background, I guess, on you guys. When it comes to esports and how you guys got into esports. Why don't we start with you, Jingna, since we're talking a little bit about you. Obviously, running the team and everything. You're very you're a very established photographer. I mean, just kind of renowned. And so, what got you into esports and running running a StarCraft 2 team, which takes a lot of time, right?
Well, I know a lot of friends who do art, like concept artists who do graphic stuff for StarCraft 2, for example, and people at Ubisoft working on Assassin's Creed. So I try to get to know the games that my friends work on. I mean, that's kind of how it started. And then after a while, playing StarCraft 2 with friends, because I mean, you can play team games. So I think that was one of the reasons I kind of stayed involved of playing the game. And from there, I had some downtime at a period of time, and I decided to start a clan with the people I met. And then we just kept playing. And then because I did air rifle and I'm really, really competitive, after a while it's just okay, can we be more serious? Can we do clan wars? Can we do leagues and stuff? And you just want to keep pushing and keep getting better and better and better players too.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Jingna was also a very, very good air rifle. She was on the national team, the Singapore national team, and
wait a minute, hold on. Why are we even talking about StarCraft 2? Seriously, this whole show should be. I just looked at some of her artwork. It's freaking amazing.
I know.
Some of her photography. Why are we talking about StarCraft 2?
Dude, I'm trying to keep the esports. I'm trying to keep the esports label on the show, man.
Oh, okay.
But you kind of see how I'm just kind of sprinkling it in, right, every so often. But
yeah, gee whiz.
But no, Jingna, she was. I think at what? It was at 14 or something. At 14, you were on the national air rifle team, right? And
yeah.
I think at one point you were. I think Girl Sportsman of the Year, I think.
This was Girl of the Year, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was 16 or so.
And that was given to you by the Singapore Olympic
Council,
organization.
Yeah, Singapore Olympic Council, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously you're highly competitive. It's kind of the point of that. And I can understand a little bit of the training that a lot of these players kind of have to go through, right?
Yeah, then it just carries through in everything I try to do, I guess.
You realize Suppy has to follow this up, right?
Yeah. I should have done that.
You just started with Suppy.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
yeah.
Conan.
I know that's a good point, John. But okay, but okay, Suppy. Conan, your turn. How'd you start gaming? I mean, I think a lot of people have known about Suppy on in the scenes and you were playing Brood War, right? To start off.
Yeah, I started off in Brood War. That was the first game I actually started playing competitively. I think before that I was just playing, Diablo, whatever, random games with my brother. So I got started in Brood War, and I actually started commentating when I was 14 or something. And I had a really high-pitched voice and really bad analysis, so people really, really hated my commentaries. So that's basically how my history with Team Liquid began. But after that, I started, wanting to start playing and get competitive and, actually understand the game because I didn't before. And so I started doing that. Ended up getting B on iCup, which is okay. And then, I just kept playing StarCraft, and then this summer got some results, and then, here I am now.
Got some results.
Really good result.
But yeah, I mean, following that up, I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about just this summer. I think this summer has just been really remarkable for you, and it's, in a way, I think it's kind of, a great story, at least for a lot of the up-and-coming players too. Because honestly, I know a lot of people have known about you in the community for a long time, but I think but this summer I feel like you've had like a meteoric rise, and obviously it's kind of resulted in you being picked up by evil geniuses, and and it's continued like your rise of popularity and your ability. So I kind of want to talk to you about just the summer. I mean, did a lot of this have to do with you just being able to just practice a lot more since it was summer and you didn't have to part-time it, or were you just like, I'm just gonna wait until like May or June and I'm just gonna like surprise everybody with kicking ass at Anaheim? Or
I think a lot of it had to do with school getting out and me having more time to play. And I think that's the way it is for like a lot of the upcoming players. If you look at like all the new upcoming players, sort of Johnny Rico, Scarlett, a lot of them like just finished school, so that kind of shows like they had more time, so they started getting good. As for me, yeah, I think it was mostly an issue of time, but I also think that a lot of players have the potential to get really good results. And I think a lot of players, I practice with a lot of people, and I feel like they're just like, they just need that one breakout event, and then they'll be like, like have so much exposure, people will know about them, but like they're actually really good, but because they don't get the opportunity to go to events, they don't get the opportunity to compete in tournaments, a lot of times you just don't hear about them. So.
Yeah, I mean, the weight of these tournaments has always been, I feel like, really large. There's always been a lot of pressure on all the players on smaller teams, like infinitySeven and Check Six before, and EG.SuppyRC and those teams. And do you think there's anything that can alleviate that some, or is there any other alternative to like except for just doing well at MLG or IPL event? I mean, is there any other way for somebody to actually make a splash in the scene?
Yeah, I might get some flack for this, but I really think that like North American only tournaments should be more emphasized. I don't know. Blizzard's WCS I thought was really, really good for giving the people the opportunity, obviously because they paid for the trip, and also like it was a bunch of open qualifiers, so a lot of people were able to participate in those, and yeah, that was really good.
You won't get any flack from us on this.
Dude, I'd have Suppy on the show more.
Yeah, so maybe like North American only play hems, something like that. There's a lot of really good players, and you just never hear about them, like I said, and they just need more opportunity. If you keep having, the play hems right now are always the top four, always Korean, pretty much. So it's very difficult for someone to get some exposure for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the WCS, WCS NA in particular has kind of convinced some tournament organizers, John, to like come up with NA NA only tournaments, or that they're actually viable and that they can be really successful. I mean, they were going crazy over Scarlett, this past tournament, and even the Canadian one, even the U.S. and the Canadian one. I feel like there was ample interest in it. It wasn't, there's no Koreans there. That's okay, right?
Yeah, and like I think the original purpose of NASL was for it to be this sort of North American premier Star League. That's why it's called NASL. But
yeah.
Except for like they're bringing in more Koreans.
No one remembers what NASL stands for.
Yeah, at this point it's basically Korean SL. So yeah.
Korean SL.
Yeah.
National Asian Star League.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So I definitely hope they do more WCS. And actually, I think tournaments a lot of times can be even more interesting when it's just like North American or America's people, because everybody has a story behind them. I don't know. I think everybody's more relatable. You can like relate to the players more. I don't know. I think it's a lot more interesting sometimes just seeing the competition within a specific region. And I think it can make for a better viewer experience sometimes. Like, for example, the TSL right now, a lot of people are complaining that it's not too interesting with only like 4 Koreans left that a lot of people don't think have too much of a story behind them. But I think the first TSL was really good because it was mostly foreigners, and every single match was really exciting. and had like a huge like story behind it or a rivalry or something. So I think it would be really good for tournaments to do that.
And we'll get more of those stories the more North America only tournaments that we have. I mean, you were saying before, one of the problems is we don't really get to know any of these people because they won't make it past, the round of 16 or something. And really nobody seems to think, any player is special unless they can make it into the Final Four or something like that. I mean, if you don't make it into the Final Four, you're basically you're not that great, which is just too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before, but we really need to build up these players, and building up meaning like we need to at least establish at least an environment where we can give them some success, give them some confidence, give them a way to even potentially make a little bit of money, and have a good reason to even do it, because a lot of folks are like you, Conan. I mean, they're going to go to school before. I mean, I'm not going to say before playing, but they're not going to quit school, necessarily to game. Which kind of leads me to ask you. I mean, you're obviously super talented. I think a lot of people would agree with. I don't think anybody would deny that. So, just this summer kind of just shows me like at least what kind of, I guess, curve that you can be on. Like it just from a skill standpoint, it's like the practice obviously has a lot to do with it. So, would you ever consider taking a break from school?
I get asked this question a lot. For now, I think the answer is no. But if I get, because I definitely have to prioritize academics and whatever, especially with my parents. Like, it's always academics first.
You being Asian?
Asian
yeah,
parents.
of course. Yeah.
I wish there was more North American parents like that. Dead serious.
Well, my parents are actually pretty good about it. Like, they're not super strict. They're obviously they're just concerned with me keeping on top of my academics, but they're fine with me playing video games actually. So that's pretty nice. But I don't know. My typical response is basically like if I win like a major tournament, then maybe I would. Like if I won or got like second or third in WCS, I maybe would have. But yeah, for now, as of now, the answer is no. Huh?
But you had to play teammates all weekend.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Well, I mean, hopefully I don't know. Maybe you'll have a crazy good finish in MLG Dallas. You're gonna be at MLG Dallas, right?
Hopefully.
Okay.
Okay. Try to.
Okay. I know those fans are hoping and praying that you'll be there.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess the next topic we have here is really, kind of, we talked about it a little bit with you just now, Conan, but really balancing like career, school, and esports, and Jingna, in particular. I mean, you're traveling all around the world all the time, doing a lot of these shoots, and by the way, Jingna does a lot of commercial shoots too for a lot of big companies like Sony, Canon, Mercedes. Just another tidbit sprinkled in there, but so you're doing a lot of these kind of shoots, and so how do you balance the two? Like how many hours in the week do you spend on esports for when you have such a crazy career already?
I'm kind of like work hard, play hard. Play hard is like IS work hard, play hard person. So if I take on a project, because I'm a freelancer myself, so I can take on a project, schedule that, and during that time I might be spending less time with IS because I get really busy with the shooting production itself. And then once that's over, usually I dedicate a month or two to just working on IS almost every single day. And so I guess it's not really what you expect. I guess not conventional, I guess, to compare with someone else, because I really have a lot of control over what I do, and because I really like running the team and seeing players and the team grow, so I put in a lot of time even if I turn down jobs.
I see. How much of the, obviously being owner, you're going to be spending a lot of time doing, wearing a lot of hats, meaning player management, trying to acquire sponsors, and just everything, branding and everything, right? How much of it do you spend trying to acquire sponsors? because you guys definitely are sponsored by several pretty good companies. So I kind of wanted to get a sense of that from you, because obviously you're a smaller team, so you have to do a lot more from the standpoint of even just like player management and that type of stuff.
Right. For me, I kind of just tried really hard in the start, and but SteelSeries and DVN are mostly from this perspective of this will make my team look legit. That I have sponsors, and
right.
I mean, trust me, I think it's pretty important, because say if I just keep funding this team, but without sponsors, I mean, to almost any player, it's gonna look kind of sketchy, right? Like, really? You're gonna send me to MLG? Like, where's your money gonna come from? Stuff like that, right? Like, when you have a sponsor, it feels, at least like, say, SteelSeries is sponsoring us. It kind of feels more validated to players and the community as well, who will be like, who are these guys? But at least like, oh, they have sponsorships, they must be kind of okay. Yeah. So after I landed that sponsorship, I talked with the guys at GG Play Apparel, and they sponsored us. But since then, I've kind of just been really busy trying to mostly focusing on managing the team instead of pushing the sponsorship side. Because I guess I'm how should I say it? I think I focus more on getting good results first before I feel like it's something that's tangible or worthy for me to be pushing for marketing. Because I mean, I have my own Facebook fan page, right? And obviously, like, if I have, say, like close to 60,000 fans now, and if I compare that with what I have for IS, like, I would know it's like a small number to going out to a sponsorship, a company, a potential sponsor, and it's hard for me to sell knowing that this is not, that big or that good, right?
Right. I know what you mean. It's more of a
but
it's more perception than it is.
Yeah, but I mean, and then we started having results, so I keep saying I wanted to focus more on sponsorship again, but then we just get more busy with more events that the players are in. Then I mean, of course, events take priority, right? From players and scheduling for the tournaments. So then I ended up not having time to do the new sponsorship deck, or reaching out like I previously had time to do. So it's to manage.
I had a quick question along with that, and it might be a little off topic, but when you're reaching out to different sponsors, just because now I know what you do, do you ever feel that some of these that some sponsors might be reluctant to sponsor the team because they think, just kind of like what you're saying, is that, well, you'll just take care of it? I mean, they really don't need to sponsor you because your team is pretty well taken care of because you're this famous photographer and so on. It's just a question I was thinking of.
I don't think that's entirely a concern to sponsors. It is still more of, I think what most sponsors care about is still more of how can we market their products or their services, and that's dependent on, say, your players' appearances in events, tournaments, / stream numbers, and stuff like that. So more of the marketing initiatives you can do yourself.
Okay.
And
have you well, one of the issues that we've been having in the esports industry is really that all the sponsors are endemic, right? They're all like esports related companies or computing related companies. Have you ever thought about, or have you already approached any of the large companies that you like, large brands that you work with or have worked with in the past, and talked about esports with them?
Not yet, but we're gonna work on it, I guess. I can say right now.
yeah. No, that's cool. That'd be awesome for the industry. I think if infinitySeven landed some cool brands.
Hope so. We'll see.
Exactly. So one of the big topics I think I wanted to talk about tonight was really, and I think it was great having the two of you on. Is that, Jingna, you're in this kind of mid-tier mid-tier team level is the show's called Climbing the Ladder, right? So you're kind of in this mid to high, I guess, rung on the ladder. And Conan, you've been in that rung. You've been below it, in it, and now you're in EG, which is like pretty much the pinnacle of it. Let's talk about the challenges. Like, let's talk about things like sniping players from like basically big teams coming in. Whenever players do get better, let's just say like infinitySeven has a player that ends up getting better, and then the big teams come knocking at those players' door, right? Or they start talking to them. What do you do against that? And Conan, like, I'll ask you. I mean, I'll kind of come to you after that and get your perspective on it too.
I think for right now we haven't had a big team that does that, so I guess it's not something I can say what did I do. But I think something that does help is being good friends with the managers of those big teams, so they try to respect you.
I see. I see.
And
Okay.
if they do push your player, I hope you get a good deal. But but it's definitely one of the challenges because for example, for us, our team name might be bigger than the sponsorship money we're receiving, and like I mentioned just now, like semi-established player or our players who are getting better might be asking for like a pay review or a raise in like how many months, and sometimes it's just something that we can't really afford or give. And at the same time, because our exposure level as a mid-tier team, of course, can't be compared to EG or if it is top-tier teams, right? So it's hard also for sponsors to be giving us more money because it kind of goes both ways, right? If you don't have that exposure for them, they're not gonna be like, oh, okay, we'll give you money to salary a player, but they have no return of investment, right? In a sense.
Right. So I mean, so I guess the question is no. I mean, there's not much you can do about. I mean.
Yeah. So in a way, it feels like there's not much you can do. So you pray really hard, wait time, and wait for that. Like what Conan said, for that first breakout for a player, that can really give them like their big name, so like they can get lots of stream viewers to support themselves financially, or for the team to be able to land bigger sponsors or more sponsorship money and things like that.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like all these teams are hoping to have a breakout, but the minute they have a breakout, that's when they start becoming more.
So I think
enticing.
it's when the team has to be well organized and quick enough to be working on enough marketing to make it worthwhile for him to stay. Of course, you hope there is some sort of loyalty from the player, right? I mean, of course, if I have a player who's done really well and EG offers him like 10,000 a month, that's not something I can immediately reach. But
come on, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But if say the big team offering this breakout player a salary range that we think we could get him.
Uh-oh. Did we lose her?
I think we lost her.
Uh-oh. We'll give her a second here, see if she comes back.
That happened.
Oh, I think we lost you for a second.
Okay. Sorry.
But I don't know, you might want to repeat what you just said maybe 10 seconds ago.
Which I said basically.
You said if the number, I guess, is something close to what you guys can, like around the range that you guys can maybe.
Yeah, try to convince like sponsors maybe to do. Then then there should be a way that you can convince your player to stay if there's enough loyalty, I think.
I see.
Yeah. Do you think that that's one of the biggest problems, though? Because I know this is going to come up. I guarantee we're going to get a phone call later during the Q&A session from a very specific person who's going to ask, what about that loyalty? I mean, does money always talk? or do you feel like there is opportunities for loyalty to trump money?
I think there is a balance in this. I don't think it's smart to stay, like, say, if the team just doesn't look like it's going anywhere, then of course the smarter choice is to go on bigger teams and just go with them. But like, I would like to say that, well, I hope so, that IS, for example, we keep looking for ways to like grow the team, and both in terms of brand name, sponsorship level, and player achievements. And so, you know, I hope in terms of that for us, maybe the player will feel like, you know, this is worth staying for a while more at least, to see where this can go. You know, of course, there's going to be communication needed from both sides, between the management and the player, to see what was fair for both sides. Because, I mean, if it's an offer that we definitely can't match, I would believe for the player, it's better for him to go on a bigger team too, you know, for his career, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's get Conan's perspective on this. And you know, I don't want us to kind of be kind of having this perception that, you know, players are just greedy and that kind of thing, which is not the case. I mean, if they're given a considerably larger offer, I mean, there's no, you know, like you said, Jingna, it might not be smart for you. I mean, it might be the correct decision. You know, even with the loyalty that we're talking about, correct decision might, you know, is still probably to take, you know, a substantially more, you know, larger amount of money. I mean, that's just the smarter decision. So what's your take on all this, Conan? You know, Conan obviously was on Check 6 a few months ago, and I think your contract was running out, or your contract ran out, right? And I guess well, why don't you explain it? I don't want to explain it.
Well, the thing is, I actually never was contracted by Check 6.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, even up to a month after Anaheim, like, no one on the team was contracted. We only had one contracted player, and that was Mystic. And so I think that's one thing that a team should do is, when they get a breakout player or whatever, you know, that team has to be really quick in making sure they get that player contracted, try and find as much exposure opportunities for that player, and try and push it as forward as possible. And like you guys said, to like make it worthwhile for them to stay on that team. I really enjoyed Check 6, and I loved all my teammates. I really liked the management. But the management, I have to admit, was just a little bit slow on certain things, and didn't get things done like that quickly. So it kind of limited the amount of, you know, like, because the player can't stick around too long before, you know, maybe their breakout performance, you know, the sparkle effects of that performance like wear out. So I think a team really needs to take the opportunity to just push as fast as possible when something like that happens. In terms of, you know, I don't know, I'm just wondering how maybe like in the NFL or NBA or whatever, how other teams prevent teams from sniping players. I'm wondering if they have some sort of system going. I know like NBA has like salary caps or something, but obviously that's not something we can implement in esports right now. But
it'd be more analogous to baseball, you know, like where the Yankees are always, you know, they're always taking jabs for basically taking all the big players.
Yeah,
it's kind of similar,
there are
right?
players that have turned them down and said, no, that amount of money is not as important to me as.
Yeah, but it's usually because a family lives there, or, you know, it usually has a you know, a different, you know, there's no issue with location here, right? I mean, at least for the most part.
I mean, for me, I know the main reason that I switched or I accepted EG's offer was not really for the money, but mostly for, you know, the opportunity it was to get a lot of exposure, you know, like get your name out there. Yeah, EG is a really good team for that, or a really good marketing machine, like you said. So, I don't know. That's why I kind of took that opportunity. So I'm not too sure. I think a team just really has to, you know, just push it as quick as possible. and I don't know the exact steps for what they need to do, but at least get your players contracted. In my case.
Yeah. So I mean, could you see a scenario for you, Conan? I mean, just disregard where you are right now, but could you have seen yourself in a scenario where you are contracted by a mid-tier team, and you're approached by a big team, and that's going to be paying you a little bit, that's offering you more money? Do you actually see a scenario where you'd say no to that big team as a player? I mean, assuming that this other team is, marketing you properly and that sort of thing.
I think I mean, if they were doing marketing well, I don't know. Like for me, it was definitely a very hard decision, and
which is good to hear. I mean, I think that's encouraging to hear from the smaller teams, that it wasn't just like, oh, okay, I'm out of here, like for sure, because of the opportunity. But
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to push on Check 6 for a really long time. I wanted us to do in-house tournaments where we'd have them streamed by like a caster and get them like a weekly tournament and have maybe like $100 prize pool, like for players, to give incentives to them to play in the tournament and get some nice exposure. So VVV had the Wednesday night show match thing, which I thought was really, really good for getting them exposure.
Yeah, yeah.
I was trying to push that for Check 6, but we never got that to be implemented. And also the contracting thing, obviously, even like I wanted every single player contracted, and I know like Fujikura also did, but there's just there was so much stuff that was slow about it. So I don't know. I think if Check 6 had, if I had seen Check 6 like making, full advantage of my recent performance and like, grabbing new sponsorships maybe, or starting to do more of those types of exposure things, I might have been more willing to stay, because it's always nice that you can be on a team from the very beginning and help it develop and like be there as it develops, So I think that's something everybody wants. But for me, I wasn't quite seeing that, and I had a really short time to choose to decide. EG didn't give me that much time, so I basically just took the better opportunity at the time, I guess.
So I mean, it definitely sounds like the teams, whenever they're anticipating a breakout or they're kind of feeling like this player's set up to do well, that they should try to sign them as soon as possible, right, before the breakout, right? I mean, I would think that the correct thing to do is to have them on contract before they even break out. That way,
yeah, but what sort of contract can you have them on if you're not paying them very much, if anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't broken out yet, so I mean, wouldn't they, from a value standpoint, wouldn't it be more like?
Oh yeah, I know.
To sign them on something less.
I mean, if I was running a team, now I'd want to have all my players on contract, but if I can't really offer them, I mean, I'm not sure what I'd really put in the contract, Yeah, it's like asking my admins to, well, actually, my admins do sign a contract, but but it's a different sort of contract. But I don't know. I mean, it'd be hard to keep players around if you weren't really paying them. But I could definitely see that. Like for instance, look at Sort of. I mean, immediately when he started doing well, I got messages from Titus at Western Wolves like, okay, hey, we're in panic mode now because we know that because of his breakout, there's going to be people that are going to want him, and we need to find ways to reach out to sponsors. Was asking for my, any sort of insight that I might have had or any contacts that I could have passed their way. So they were right on top of it from the, the minute that Sort of got, made a name for himself. So I definitely see that as being very important.
I mean, but he was signed too, right? I mean, Western Wolves obviously, they kind of had it together too. I mean, besides the Spades thing, but they had it together when it came to like picking up the Infused guys, basically, right? I mean, Zika Mini won WCS UK, and then Sort of obviously has been doing incredibly this summer too. So. It sounds, but they had them on contract, right? I mean, I don't actually know for a fact or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't.
Titus isn't here, but
I assume they must have had I assume they must have had to renegotiate something after, winning WCS UK. Like whatever they had him on before was probably really small. They probably had to.
That I know. It definitely was. And so they were thinking, okay, we don't want to lose this player. He's. I mean, I think in their case, it was not only that he was good for their brand. It was, it was definitely very good for Western Wolves. What sort of was doing, but it was good for them because it would keep their, would keep everything together, and they wouldn't fall apart, and people wouldn't, it wouldn't be the domino effect. So, they were all over it. I think right off the bat, right when other people started noticing, they're like, oh shit, now it's time that, we put things in place to prevent him from being sniped.
Yeah, exactly. And Jingna, these player contracts. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to negotiate, right? I mean, based on results, do you? I mean, it's usually. I would think that the contracts are like 6 months to a year. That until the contract's up is when you would negotiate, or does it not work like that?
Yeah, usually you negotiate at the end of the contract, but we used to sign players for about 6 months or to like 8 months, I guess. Yeah, but we stopped doing that because time actually passes by really fast. So we started only contracting players for a year. But we give them an option to do like a pay review based on their performance, like 6 months down the road. So it's not like they have to wait a whole year and they're doing really well, but they're not getting anything they deserve. That they should be getting more. But because I was a competitor myself. Like I was on the national air rifle team for 6 years, right? But there was no salary for that either, and I just made money from my prize winnings. So in a way, I guess I want to run it to be fair to the players because right now I'm paying for everything, right? And if they really do get big enough and we can bring the money, of course, then I will pay what I can for the players. Because, in making a team, I think it is all about the players. A lot of it. Of course, management matters too.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of a crazy idea, but I just want to see what you guys think of it. Has there ever been a thought, or have you heard folks ever talk about, when it comes to smaller teams that possibly have a breakout player, offering them part ownership of the team, like as a way to just keep them, help them, obviously build the brand and have their name basically be associated directly with the brand.
I've not heard of teams doing that, but I've been suggested this before. Yeah.
I think that's an interesting concept. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I think some players might not want the burden of having to pay attention to all. Like some people just want to play.
Yeah.
But I think that would be actually a very interesting proposition.
Well, it's interesting that you bring this up because I just had a conversation today about this with somebody who's running a team, and that's exactly what they did. Is they offered some of their players basically what they call them shares in the organization. And I said to them, well, so you have two investors that are putting all the money into the into the company and doing all the work to market it and find the sponsors, and you have players and you're giving them each 12%, and there's 5 players, so they get 60%.
Well, I don't know about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was blown away. I was like, okay, that didn't, that didn't really compute with me because it didn't make sense. But even without, even the percentages doesn't matter because what they said was the players didn't care. They didn't care about the percentages or any of that. They just wanted to play, and what they wanted to know was that the team was looking out for them and that there was sustainability in the team and the structure was in place that they could move and grow forward, move forward and grow. And that was more important to them than whether or not they had 12% in the company, because you can have 50% in a company, but if it ain't going anywhere, it's not going to matter.
Right.
I think that's what's important to most good players.
How much do the sponsors know? Like when it how I guess informed are they of tournament results and that sort of thing? Would a sponsor come up to you, Jingna, and say, "Hey, we'll sponsor you if you pick up so and so, or you keep so and so for a year, or we'll even pick up the tab for it if you keep so and so for a year.
Nothing really like that, but I believe sponsors do specifically direct money to certain players. Like I know, like for example, Intel was sponsoring like Boxer directly, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
not so much say players per se. But
oh,
I
Mark
think
just
the
screwed up. Mark just
Sorry.
screwed up all my screen regions.
My bad.
That's all right. I'll reset them. Keep going, Jingna. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, it's okay. So I don't know. I mean, of course, sponsors are aware, but I don't think all the time. For existing sponsors, of course, we send them like updated, team activity achievement results like regularly every month or something, and it kind of goes from there for them to monitor like, oh, hey, who's doing well, and of course we tell them especially who's doing extra well and getting more exposure, so they know which players are of value for us to keep, and if we need to ask for more money, and that there's the reason why, etc.
I see. Yeah, Mark, we're just talking about just kind of challenges of kind of the mid-tier teams, and obviously Jingna being owner of infinitySeven, just what kind of things that they can do to try to keep players and keep players from being sniped from guys like you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's we're a little bit less of a risk because we have our developmental component basically built in already. So we kind of tend to have our own crop of up-and-coming players. But yeah, I think that for the teams that are exclusive to top-tier talent, I think it's definitely an issue. But
I guess here's a question.
And I think that the fact that those top teams are seeing the success of what we're doing and what Complexity is doing with their academy is kind of making them say, oh, well, we should really be doing more with the developmental players. And I think that that's kind of what you're seeing now, which scares the hell out of the mid-tier teams, of course, because they're like, holy shit, now the big boys are coming after our people? What's the deal with that? Why? You never wanted our people before. So, yeah, it's a little bit. It should be, then XLab, right? XLab left EG and came to infinitySeven, and he's done arguably better there than anywhere else. So.
Yeah, I have to say that. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. So.
Yeah, I mean, because, for example, when he was on EG, there's definitely a lot more players who had bigger names that people are doing like the media coverages of, and then by the end of the event, journalists would be like, well, I've already done 5-6 EG features, like, do I have time? Could I slot in XLab? Who's going to read it?
Right.
But on infinitySeven, it's more like, hey, this is an up and coming team, and XLab is their star. It's a completely different media and story angle for people to work up with, and
I just want to point out here that infinitySeven is not like all the other mid-tier teams. infinitySeven is like baller. So, I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly, no. I mean, for, speaking of Nick and XLab, I mean, it has been great for him. I mean, look at his popularity now. I mean, it's nice to see because, I felt like Nick's always been, not, I guess, rewarded from a viewership standpoint how good he is. But it's kind of funny because it's really extraneous things that's actually, I think, resulted in his popularity, which was being an analyst on the MLG. I think that's kind of resulted in his, like, I think very consistent viewership now on his stream. But, in the end, it's still great, regardless. But, yeah, it's funny how this industry works.
Yeah. So, but we're happy to have him, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
No, let me ask you a question about Nick, because we're talking about Nick. I mean, his casting and stuff for the arenas and all the stuff he's been doing in front of that screen and everything like that, I mean, how is that, for a mid-tier team, that's not something that's very common. I mean, how has that affected the visibility of your brand and I think, and just in general? I mean, has it been good? Has it been good? I'm sure it's been good.
Yeah, it's definitely grown the team's name, and more people definitely know about us, compared, I guess, it's being just, a mid-tier team.
It seems like that's when like the MLG announcers stopped calling is crazy moving and is Axlab and started saying IS.
It is.
That was so annoying. That was so annoying.
Oh my gosh! No kidding.
Yeah. That's good when it's getting called IS.
It's crazy.
Is crazy moving? Yes, he is
Yeah,
crazy moving.
We won't mention their names, but Mark, you mentioned the whole development, I guess initiative you guys have, and just some of the others. Is it actually more cost effective for you guys to even do it versus just to go and get players whenever their contracts end?
I think longer term it could be. I mean, it's one of those things we're kind of innovating by doing what we're doing, because like I don't know exactly how Academy works with complexity and other things like that, but I mean, farming players, what we really look for is players who want to do the work. They want to do the hard work, and they have the potential. They clearly have the talent potential, and they just need that opportunity in such a crowded market space to be able to kind of rise to that occasion. And so, we are investing in them. There's a capital component to this. I mean, putting them in a training house facility, paying them a stipend every month to provide them spending money, and then all of the staff support and everything that goes into that environment, sending them to Korea when it's the right time. And I think that we're starting to see a lot of results there, like with State, with Hawk, who just recently won the ESWC qualifier here in NA. And of course, with Illusion, just continues to rocket forward. But I mean, we just need to, I think, as an industry, realize that just capitalizing on the existing top talent is, sure, it's easier, but it's not really growth oriented, I think. And we need to be focusing on the up and coming tomorrow's talent. And I think that by focusing on tomorrow's talent, Quantic's, like our objective in doing that, one of our main objectives in doing that, is to see the renaissance of North American StarCraft. I think that's our goal. Whether or not that will happen, who knows?
Is it so much of that, or just, if you have them from the beginning, they'll never go to anybody else, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we were so like, we were not going to let Chris go when the merger happened. Like, so many teams were wanting Chris. I mean, Complexity, EG, of course. Everybody was trying to talk to Chris. And I knew if we can hang on to this guy, that we can build a brand with him. And it's like nobody really remembers that Chef was on FXO.
Right.
He's Liquid Chef, right? And so now Chris is Quantic Illusion. And so it'd be like if Idra came to a different team, he would always still be remembered as EG Idra.
It's like what team they use when they enter Hall of Fame.
Exactly. What is it, like, I mean, and I think it's different for a player like Suppy, for example, because arguably being signed by EG was bigger than his tournament performances prior to that. But I mean, in the case of, like, if he had stayed on Check 6, then he would have always been Check 6 Suppy. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit different because that's a unique situation, which is working out really well, I think, for both him and the team. But I mean, it could have easily just backfired, and nobody would have just ever heard about it again. You just never know with development. It's like horse racing, right? You never know who's gonna you just never know, man. I mean, look, Hawk got knocked out of the WCS thing on Friday night, and he was devastated. And then Saturday, he 2-1'd I Am Losira and Huck. You can't tell what motivates people, but what we try to do is align that motivational thing with where we think they want to go, and also provide them a transition out. So if they don't reach those goals and they want to go back to school, they want to go back and do life, that's also equally important. It's important for them to have a career plan that says, okay, this is where I'm going to try like hell, and give them the right environment and all the tools that they need to do that. And then if they don't reach their goals, they're not satisfied with the level at which they're playing, then they want to, disengage.
Right.
Go play StarCraft on the weekends and have fun.
Exactly. So, Jingna, if an infinitySeven player has a breakout, it wasn't last MLG, but a couple MLGs ago, infinitySeven did have a very, very good MLG result. Whenever that happens, what is y'all's main main channels of marketing? And I mean, what is kind of hopping on that bandwagon that John you were talking about earlier? What is that? Like, what do the teams do? Like, do they try to? I mean, obviously their Twitter and try to push their Twitch, push their Twitter.
Yeah.
Do they try to get them in show matches? I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the teams do.
Well, there's so many various things you can do, but I think the biggest thing to keep the hype consistent is for the player to stream regularly. And it's something we have failed with Crazy Moving because he is hard to convince in that department. And I mean, the other thing is to have also consistent results. I mean, I'm sure Suppy, like, if he joined EG and then right after he has no results, it's just going to be forgotten after a while, right? But, you know, he did so well in at Aces and stuff like that, so that cemented his, like, up-and-coming talent status and things like that, right? So, I mean, it's, of course, the team has to do something, but the player has to also keep pushing himself as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was telling Titus like the other day that it takes 2 or 3 like results in a row for the community to really take notice. And I think that's true.
I want to say one thing that teams could really do. I posted a link in the Skype thing, but this little thing, I think this is like a very good way to like get good exposure. I mean, you know, there's only 3 pages, but I think, you know, teams should be doing this a lot more often. I know Light, we took this idea from Light because they did it for one MLG they did, and then like, so we decided to do this as well. And I think it's like things like this are really good to get more exposure for your team.
Really puts the player name that you keep hearing with like a face too. I think that's that's where Suppy took off. That's where it all happened for and you can confirm this too. I think it's, you know, when Check6 put Suppy's face with his gameplay, all of a sudden everybody was like, holy shit, yeah, that's good. Like that, yeah, that's good. Like, right? You know, so I mean, to a certain degree, you know, yeah, I think that, you know, they did too good of a job. But yeah, I mean, it's so important. It is so important, you know, that you promote the player story as a person, because they are a person. And that's what people really latch onto. They want to know that person. They want to feel connected with that person, not just appreciate their gameplay.
Yeah, stories are just as important as, or stories really, I guess, amplify results too. So.
And that's what we were talking about with the North American only tournaments too.
Yeah.
Makes everything so much more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So Jingna, when you're at the tournaments, do you take a lot of photos, or do you not have time to even do that?
I try to take photos of the players as much as I can. I used to try to take a lot of pictures of pretty much everyone, because I think, I mean, of course, in promoting myself directly, the story kind of promotes my team as well, because people will be like, oh, you know, like Z-Motion, like, and then it kind of goes via his website and stuff like that, and people will check it out. But it just started getting so busy, like, as we start making deeper into the tournaments, and I also just get more tired.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
It's like, oh, I have to check out on the brackets, make sure the players are okay, like their equipment's not breaking, they have water, they have, you know, everything they need. And
people don't realize
Mark,
that.
You doing that, dude? Mark, you doing that, dude?
Dude, listen, let me tell you what, man. I had 4 Call of Duty teams win MLG championships last year, and I was behind every single one of them with water and Kit Kats. Water and Kit Kats bought me Call of Duty teams last year. It's ridiculous.
People underestimate the power of water. Like, Anaheim, like, literally after every game, I would run over to the water fountain and get some water, and then... Yeah, no, I think a lot of people are dehydrated, like... it's really important to keep hydrated. Raleigh, I didn't do as good of a job, but like, you just gotta keep drinking. Like, I think it's so important. Like, players don't keep good care of themselves, so they kind of need managers to like help like ensure that they're taking good care of their own bodies.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's actually really true.
We even go so far as to have these like citizen band walkie-talkies that a few of the staffers have that are key people. One of them's out there smoking with people or whatever, just to make sure that we know where everybody's supposed to be. We have a master schedule. We used to schedule things down to the 5-minute level, but now we try to stay at 15-minute increments. But I mean, it's all just it's logistics effectively.
Right.
But I mean, I think that water's, like, one of the things about hydration, and I'm sure that the players can testify to this, and that is, or anybody who's done any running or anything like that, is once your mouth is, like, dry and you realize that you're dehydrated, it's, like, too late. And it affects your critical thinking, like, significantly.
Right.
Which is
No,
important
definitely.
in Star Trek, right?
Yeah. So, Jingna, have you ever considered, I guess, picking up a media person? Like, I think Mark obviously has a couple media folks, that...
like 45?
Well, you know what I mean. Like media folks that people in the community know, not the guys behind the scene. Yeah, have you ever considered doing that also? Some the teams have been picking up casters and that sort of thing, or is that just just less of a priority for you?
Like another face for the team that's not a player.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sort of like a Maximus Black kind of character, maybe?
A little bit like that, or, just...
I think Axel's kind of become that face for Infinity-7 largely.
Yeah, a little bit.
Although,
Yeah. At the same time, a player.
He's become the Jeff and Control Robinson of IS.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. But,
I mean, the role is very...
But yes, he is wearing definitely different hats right now.
Right.
Which is good. I mean, that's very efficient, right? Obviously for you. To have somebody, have the ability to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely thought about it, but as I've said before, main focus on players
Results.
and this kind of.
That's cool.
I think having media people is actually really good for a team. Back on Check 6, we had Ilush and we had Maximus Black, and we might have gotten like some flack for it. But I thought the principle behind it was a good idea. I think in practice, Check 6 didn't really utilize them as well as they could have. I think we should have been playing with Maximus, trying to help him get Grandmaster, blah 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 blah. We rarely ever played with him, but that would have helped so much, getting exposure for everybody's stream, because Maximus pulls 2-3K viewers every time.
Crazy.
Yeah, the one time I did play with him, I instantly got 100 times more viewers than I normally got. So it was okay, maybe not that much, but a lot. And we could have utilized that a lot more. But we didn't really interact with them that much. I know I never really played Ilush at all. I see her at events, I talk to her at events, but I never really played with her. I think it's a good thing for a team to have. They just got to make sure to utilize it correctly.
Right.
Yeah, especially a media person that will make media for you. You know what I mean? If you had somebody like Jeff, or Jeff meaning Maximus, or even just a caster that actually makes videos for you and then puts them on YouTube themselves, and you don't have to do much of anything. I mean, that's awesome.
So I don't even know if you guys know, but HD StarCraft was on Check 6 as well.
Yeah. So was Pain User.
Yeah, and Paid User. We had so many. Yeah, but most people didn't even know.
Or they just read a tag and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The team itself has to push out efforts too, and it does have the star people that it has. I think that's why I talked about balance earlier on. I think
if you'd put them all together, it would have been HD Pain Black.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was dumb. And random. My bad.
So what are y'all's methods, I guess? Well, actually, I shouldn't probably ask that because you're not going to share that. I was going to ask what y'all's method of, I guess, evaluating talent, especially hidden talent. How do you find the next person that you want to recruit? And
Suppy.
Is it just word of mouth, or?
That's it. Look at Suppy. That's what we're looking for. I'm serious. You're looking for somebody.
There's a lot of folks that want.
You're looking for somebody who's got the skill, right? Who's visible, right? Who's interactive. Somebody who's talking when they're streaming. Somebody who's interacting with the equipment. They're interacting with the monitor. They're looking around. You can hear them, hammering on the keys. You can see how they're physically engaged with the gear that they're playing the game with. They don't have a lot of shock value. They're not saying, racistly charged things like that in order to get attention, but yet they still are getting positive attention. And they have a lot of fans. They don't have anti-fans. Anti-fans cancel out fans even more, actually. Like 1.5 anti-fans for every fan, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So,
I think Conan's situation kind of transcends what I'm talking about. It's more of like hidden talent. Like, how do you find? Yeah, especially Jingna, right? I mean, you probably would have a hard time trying to pick up Suppy. Somebody at Suppy's caliber right now,
Right.
just because it might not be cost effective for you to do that, right? So like, yeah, what are y'all's method of finding the hidden talent that's in NA? Do you just ask like all the kind of your player network and their network and find out who you should be watching, or do you actively go and do it?
Actually, we have a really old manager who was with us ever since we were a clan, and he used to be on Warcraft 3 teams. He goes by the name Deepak, and he's in med school, so he stopped being a manager per se. He stepped down, but in his time, he's always checking out, say, smaller tournaments and like stuff like Mayhems or whatever, and he kind of looks for talents from there. And a lot of times he gives me a poke and say like, hey, check out this person, or hey, check out that person. And for us, because for me, I'm so involved with the team itself, I don't usually have time to look around as much.
Right.
So having someone else who's really just keeping an eye on working on scouting, and like Pesh, he knows the game and he spots talents really well, so that helps a lot.
I see.
Yeah.
I think it's a different answer from my perspective, because people come to us like a lot.
Right.
I would say that we probably have like at least 50 player applications a week. When we did our initial drive, we had 10% of the world's grandmasters apply. So, I mean, it's kind of like we're constantly telling people that we're not accepting new players. I think the challenge for us is to make sure that we look at everybody thoroughly enough to know for sure that they aren't developmental. Yeah, that's the real challenge for us. Because we obviously don't want to miss a diamond in the rough, that's there that we didn't see. I think another factor is too, just financially. If you're too wide in your developmental base, then it's difficult to sell that.
Right.
And partners are not looking for developmental talent until they're actually, coming to age, I guess. Right, exactly. Because really, like, you have two metrics, right? Your exposure and your engagement, right? So your reach is like, your social properties, how many fans you have, how many followers you have, whatever. And your engagement is your frequency and duration of actually interacting with those fans and followers. And what the partners are buying from us is they want their brand or their product to piggyback that engagement. So that engagement metric has to actually be there, which is, basically multiplying their reach by how much time they're doing it. So
talk to me about picking up Madalisk this week. And, I mean, I think it's really cool, but you're definitely the first team to pick up 2 female pro gamers.
Not true. Our sister team, StarTale, has the top female pro gamer in Korea and China.
Wow. Aphrodite and who else?
I don't know what her name.
Or wait, what's it? Bubbles or something?
No, she's the Chinese player.
Yeah, it's like.
Oh, okay, so it's Aphrodite and
Pop
Bubbles. Yeah, Bubbles. That's true. I guess it's on this too. Okay.
But yes, I agree. It's because we're doing this initiative. We want to support diversity in StarCraft, and we want female players to be recognized for their skill, and so that's kind of like the underlying driver behind this. And it's one of those things where, like, we have female players staying in our training facility, and of course we have separated dormitories in that facility, so we want to invite some other female players to come and train with our female players.
Right.
And I think our end goal is to really see, I think that as a community, we need to have an end goal to see female players playing at the highest levels. And I think that we are starting to see that with Scarlet to a degree. But I mean, definitely, I think there is no reason that, I think it's more of a stylistic difference right now than anything, and I think that there's no reason that female players can't play at the highest level. So it's really kind of what we're hoping for.
I see. Okay, good deal. I think right now, why don't we kind of go into some Q&A? Folks who are watching, if you want to call in and ask all of us a question, particularly Jingna and Conan, go ahead and add me on Skype. My Skype ID is ChanmanV, And what I'll do is I'll pull you into the call once you guys start adding me. And our normal caller is
Kurt.
Kurt Key Hunt Subby. So this is going to be interesting, I think. Let's see what Kurt has to say today.
He calls every time.
He's our.
I think Kurt loves Suppy now.
We love having him on here, though.
Yes.
Yeah, he is good.
All right, I'm gonna have to. I don't have the overlay. Let's see. See what
You should
Kurt
just
has
be
to
one
say.
of the hosts in the future, maybe, if he calls every
Yeah,
time.
we've got too many hosts already, man. I mean, Ben hasn't even been on here in a while, Mr. Bitter, but he's actually officially a host too. Kurt, what's up?
What is this? Hold on, just so I'm clear. I don't call. You guys call me. This is you.
Technically, we do.
This is you reaching out. All right?
Whatever.
Suppy man was looking scared over there. He said Kurt's coming. He's like, oh my god. Dude, I'm not gonna slap you or anything, Suppy. I'm glad to see you're doing well, man.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, man.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Very, very funny. Look at John looking like he's in a hot box over there.
I am in a hot box. It's 105 freaking degrees in my room.
Hey, as long as he's not naked or anything, man.
I am.
It's fine.
Yeah, you don't know what's under that.
You are.
Yeah, you don't know what's under that desk. Anyway, no, I mean, I didn't really plan on calling in because I didn't really have very many questions, but when you called, I did have one kind of stewing that is more for Z-Motion, and I'm sorry I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I'm going to call you by your alias.
Z-Motion is fine, yeah.
Perfect. And if you don't want to answer it, I understand. So you can plead the fifth on it. It's just as someone who's not with an organization anymore, I'm just kind of curious. Number one, how honest you were. I appreciate your honesty in saying that, hey, a bunch of this is coming out of your pocket. That it's not, some imaginary sponsor like some teams tend to say. I mean, it's a bunch of it is coming out of your pocket. So it's very, the honesty is great there. But I want to know if it's coming out of your pocket, what is your, I guess, contingency plan? Like, what happens if 6 months, a year down the line, you're still paying out of pocket, and it's still mostly out of pocket? Are you in a position where you can keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that, or are you just sort of banking on sponsors? And I don't mean that as an attack. I'm just,
yeah, sure. I know where you're coming from.
All teams,
Well, I mean, for me, because I said kind of started as a hobby, right? And it's an interest, it's something I love. So, and also because I'm competitive. So if I keep seeing improvements in the players, and if we don't get sponsors, then I believe I'll keep doing it. I think it's only if, say, we really encounter too much failures, say, with players. Maybe we have bad luck, and all the players we have just suddenly decided they all don't want to play anymore. Then, okay, like maybe there will be a breaking point for me where I decide, I think I'm not gonna spend time on this anymore because I've gone through enough players, and if they're not gonna make the effort, then I think this is as far as it goes. But if the players are making an effort, then I see no reason for me to stop doing that.
Gotcha.
As well.
That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, it is kind of similar. This is kind of similar to General Hans from VP. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, Kurt, if you have any more information, because I know he basically stopped funding out of pocket too, right?
No, I mean, Mike was still putting money into Check 6 for a long time. So, I mean, but now, just like when it's a very, very similar situation, as to what you were talking about. We felt as though we'd had too many problems with players to keep going, and it's not just players, problems with everything, to keep going. So, General Han was one putting in money, Zach was putting in money, a bunch of people putting in money. It's a very similar situation. But yeah,
I think I think for infinitySeven though, and for Z-Motion, that the fact that she says this is a hobby. I mean, we all have our hobbies, and we all put money into our hobbies. Hers probably is a little bit more than some of our hobbies.
Yeah, that's like
it's a little more than a hobby.
I think. Yeah. Carry on.
Go ahead.
I
No,
think
go
of it
ahead.
on a level as some people see photography as a hobby and they buy $30,000 cameras more expensive than the one I use for my commercial jobs. This, compared to that, relatively speaking, is not so bad.
It's true.
And I'm benefiting people, these players, young players. So like one thing when we were on the national team, that I think that gave me allowed me to do really well was because Singapore's national team was, how should I say, was I guess really small, and we had a lot of opportunities to go for overseas tournaments, like even for a lot of World Cups and World Championships, SEA Games, Commonwealth Games, and say compared to people I know in China and the teams I've trained with in China and Korea, they have like 20 people who can shoot perfect scores in the national tournament. So, it's so hard to just be out there. And because I get to go to all these tournaments, I have more experience and I can do better. It's just opportunity, right? So I think if we can do this for the players like we have scouted, just someone else who is giving extra chances to these other players aside from the team that's already there, then I feel like I'm doing something good and giving back as well.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah, it sounds great. I do wish you the best of luck. If I had to choose a team that I wish to see do well, it'd probably be you guys. So, wish you luck. Take care.
All right, thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
All right, let's. JP's wants to call in. Not that JP. There's one.
I know him.
It's John's JP.
I don't own anyone.
Hi guys.
Hey JP, what's up? Got a
I'm
question?
doing good. Yes. It's to. One second.
Jingna or Suppy?
Yeah.
Both Jigna and Mark.
Okay.
He touched base on this a little while back about like team houses. Like in your eyes, like for teams in general, like EG also has a house. Like in your eyes, do houses actually benefit in the long run?
I don't know if Jingna has an answer for that or not, but since she's the guest,
Yeah.
I'll let her go first. Have you ever had players in a training house, Jingna?
I wanted to put players in the training house, but no. Because I was thinking, should I say Exla? Because he was on Rain for a while, but that was a very brief moment.
I think that speaking of that, we've just done this, right? This has been the last 3 months of our existence at Quantic. And I don't know if you saw the article on Reddit or whatever today about our house and kind of went through some of that stuff. But effectively, houses are expensive, even more so when they're in Southern California. But they're like, it takes a lot of money to do this. And I think the newsworthy thing isn't that there's a house there. The newsworthy thing is the result that it produces. The newsworthy thing is that we are trying to do this right, and I think that that's a little bit different than everybody else. Now, of course, everybody who's got a house is going to say that they're trying to do it right, but the key is in the proof is in the pudding, right? Our players, who most of you may or may not know of, but they're not top tier players, went to the event this weekend or last weekend and did very, very well, and qualified to go to WCS Worlds.
Did he just go?
Did he
blank
just?
on us?
I think your mic just cut out, Mark.
My mic?
There he goes. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
sorry.
you might have muted yourself for a second.
I think it's all about the results is what I was just saying, basically. It's all about the results, and it's about the results from the players that are up and coming, right? I think that it's also about, StarTale has really been instrumental in our approach to this. They've shared things with us that I don't think that the Korean teams generally share with each other, much less foreign teams. I think that our experience with Sase and Naniwa in the StarTale environment has propelled them to clearly the pinnacle of their performance in StarCraft 2. And so, yeah, I think that it is a very important component of it, but there's so many components of building a successful player, both from a skill perspective and a brand perspective, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. And through that process, you build an ego and you build all these other components of the person that are the things that you're basically selling, that you're basically trying to gain support for. It just takes a lot of money and a lot of time and you have to subject yourself to a lot of difficulty to do that. I think the house is definitely the most challenging thing that Quantic's ever endeavor we've ever embarked upon, and I didn't expect that. So yeah, if that answers
Mark,
your question.
it appears to me, in just you talking about it, that the results that you guys are looking for or looking to quantify is results in wins and losses, or how a player improves at the game, as opposed to some teams in which it's more about the marketing machine. Not that there shouldn't be some of both, and you just did allude to the fact that a house does allow you to build on personality, but am I correct in assuming that your guys' focus with your house is more about getting your players to a higher level of playing?
Right. I think that that's a general statement for Quantic overall, period. I think that's what is a distinctive factor that separates us from almost every other team in the world. And that is that we have two very distinct elements to our business. We have esports and we have media. And arguably, depending on whether or not you're a Battlefield player or a Call of Duty player or whatever, whether you're a YouTube viewer or whether you're an esports fan, one might be bigger than the other. I can tell you one costs a lot more money than the other. But
yeah.
Suffice to say, with the media folks that we have, like our media efforts we try to make them as supportive of the esports players that we have, so that our players aren't overly focused on generating content themselves. Now that's not always possible, but I think that in the house environment, like you're never going to see 24/7 cams in our house. You're just never going to see that. I mean,
right.
From our perspective, we just came through two training blocks, two 3-week blocks, where like if you weren't on the team or on staff, you weren't allowed in the house, much less have a camera rolling, because it's a distraction, and these folks need to be able to focus on what they're doing. If it's find match, if it's an in-house ranking, if it's whatever they're doing, they can stream from within the house. We do encourage that because we think that that's very important for them to be interacting with their fans. But playing X or Y game or whatever, dilly-dallying around, that's not happening during the structured schedule and block of hours. And I don't think that there's very many foreign pro teams in the world that have had the gumption or the discipline to actually be able to even try that much, let's really pull it off. And I think that's also one of the reasons why so many players, even from other top teams, want to come and train in our house. Because they get that produces results. But it's not easy. It is not easy.
Yeah, I talked to State back in Raleigh, I think, and he was telling me how the practice regimen was going, and it sounded very intense, very much like the Korean style of training. So.
Yep. Trying to replicate that as much as we can, and that's also one of the reasons why we're looking at doing player exchanges with the StarTel folks and bringing our Korean players over as well, to try to Korea populate that house in a way that allows all of that osmosis to occur, right? And also, we feel like the more Korean players we have stateside in U.S. facilities in general, not just in ours, but I mean, our house is more of an open house concept, so we haven't really gone out for super public with this, but I mean, it's kind of like we really want to be, that the center hub where all the best talent comes and works together. And I think that we feel like the more Koreans we have stateside, period, the more richer the metagame on the ladder in the NA region is going to become. Right now, the NA region is arguably behind everybody else. But you'll notice when there's big events like IPL or MLG, all these players are here playing on the ladder here, and things spicing up in that Grandmaster category really quick. I mean, you have a top player, even like Illusion, man. I mean, Illusion makes an EU account, and 3 days later, it's Grandmaster rank 1. I mean, when you have top players come around, they're going to shift things around. And I think that we saw that with Violet as well. I mean, there's so much stuff things happened because Violet was playing on NA server for so long. And I feel like if we had a greater presence of higher skilled players in North America on an ongoing basis, that would certainly help.
Yeah, then we wouldn't have to have people leave and go over to Korea.
And you know what? And you know what? Arguably, John, and I say that, like, I don't think that very many fans understand the sacrifices that Naniwa and Sase have made. Like, those guys literally have balls of steel. It's so ridiculous. They left their families, their friends, their jobs, their lives. They went to a foreign country where they don't speak the language, they don't get the culture, and they subjected themselves to 16 hours a day of pain. So, I mean, yes, Korea is the best place in the world to train, and if you want to try to close the skill gap at all, if you want to be the best in the world, you've got to go to Korea right now. There's no way around that. But the toll of going to Korea and being in that culture and everything else is difficult, and that also hampers your training ability. Does that make sense? The cycle. There's this, like, 3 to 5 week period where players go to Korea where they just become super depressed. They have nobody to talk to. They have nobody, like, they're losing all the time. They can't make it, out of diamond. They're, like, pissed. And they have to break their entire gameplay down and start to rebuild it up, learning the things that they've become aware of, little things about their gameplay they never even knew before. Well, and that's a really hard experience. If we could do that in an environment that was more comfortable, more natural for them, I think it would be better. I think we could do it faster.
Well, I mean, the whole Korea thing, it's kind of a, I don't know, my opinion on the Korea thing is kind of like having to go there. Like, we had Saucy on here, right, like a show or two ago, talking about how you have to be in Korea because, the ladder's obviously just full of way higher quality, right, and just constantly playing that, your level's going to increase with that. But for me, it's just like, if you're not going to get into a team house, then for me, the only problem then that we're talking about is just, Blizzard figuring out how, to reduce the latency, whether put servers somewhere else or whatnot. Because if they did that, then our players wouldn't have to go over there. Like, if it's not to, like, be in the, Startail house or the, MVP house or whatever.
I think you're right. I think if they're in the Quantic house and we had low latency connections to Korea that weren't 160 milliseconds, then they wouldn't have to be in Korea to a certain degree.
So the whole you have to be in Korea thing, like... But
hold on, let's be honest here. Like, the reason that we play Korean ladder is because Korean ladder is so much... Because there's 800 people in Korea that could all be rank 1 GM and NA and EU. That's the reason why we do it, right?
No,
but I mean, in Korea, like, for these pro team players, for, like, Partying and Bomber and for July, like, being Grandmaster in Korea server is equally, like, nothing as it is for our pros here in the NA, right? Like, the Korean ladder is a joke to a certain degree.
Well,
like, that's how good they are. Does that make sense? That's how good they are. Like, they're focused on GSL, where it's like a whole other level of playing, basically. It's a whole other level, man. So, if you want to...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you want to get better than Korean Grandmaster, which I think a really serious StarCraft 2 pro that wants to win major tournaments must, then, you've got to play in practice with people who are way better than that. And the only places that you can find that in the world are Korean training environments with Korean players who are playing custom games with you, with their builds. They're not showing anybody else.
Conan, what do you think of all that?
I mean, I've never played on Korean ladder. I've never played on European ladder. I've only done North American ladder. I think to some extent it obviously, like, it's sort of... Definitely, like, I think it's a good idea to do different ladders, and I'm definitely considering doing it because North American ladder, first of all, it takes really long to find a match a lot of times, and the second thing is almost everybody is Zerg, so you only get ZVZs. In terms of, I mean, I've never played on Korean ladder, like I said, so I don't know how exactly high the Korean skill or the skill cap is.
ZVZ is a challenge, that's for sure.
But wait a minute, hold on a second. I'm so baffled here. Isn't the entire idea of having a house the ability to practice with the very people that are in the house with you? I just thought this just hit me. It's like, why are we talking about the fucking ladders? I think ladders are worthless, but that's
because you got to go to Korea and ladder for 5 weeks and lose before you're even worth a shit. That's why, John.
I mean, Desro we had Desro on the show, and I was talking with, and I was enlightened a little bit by what he had to say. Is like, he said you just need to find new, and it's not for everyone. He did say for some people Korea is the perfect place to learn, but for a lot of people you just have to hunker down and do what it takes to get better. I mean, some of the best players.
If you have the discipline to go to Korea and
Yeah.
do it, you have the discipline to do it here, and I
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
agree.
But
You're
I
right.
understand there are much better players in Korea, without a hands down, from top to bottom. Let's not say. I think the gap is closing a little bit. That's my personal opinion. And we've had this discussion before, but that's just from an outsider perspective because I don't understand the game enough to be able to tell. But just looking at it from the outside, it seems as if the gap is closing. But from top to bottom, and there's no doubt that there's a lot more Koreans that are, in the top 100 best players in the world than there are,
Way more. I mean, yeah.
way more.
But that's
Right.
because those Korean houses, they are talking to each other about StarCraft all the time and and talking about metagame and talking about different builds and that sort of thing.
And the culture is
culture.
different.
The
It's
culture,
about-
yeah. Let's say that.
Dark.
Right.
Yeah, the culture too. Yep.
They don't
What-
have the distractions. Well, I mean, we can't totally say that, but I mean, they don't have as
They don't have
anything.
the distraction because they're a team. They're an actual team. They're not just a single player.
Yeah, there you go. That's a discussion for another day. They are a team. We
They
need more
eat together. They go to soccer together. They do everything together.
I mean,
That's what I miss about StarCraft 2. I really wish the team aspect was more emphasized.
right.
That's why I really like the CSL. Like when you're playing,
teams, it would make a difference. We might see
Yeah.
that, but that's a discussion for another day as well.
Jingna, given how obviously how much I guess how good of an air rifler you were, and just all the practice and just that commitment that you put into it for years, right? If you kind of have that mentality, and I kind of, you have that mentality, you have that competitive mentality, you have that just like I'm going to become the best like mentality. Are we doing enough like in NA I mean, are our players doing enough? I mean, do we have to go to Korea? I guess that's just the whole point.
What I actually used to do is, I guess here are the few things I believe in because of that was how it was with me for air rifle is my batch had a lot of really good shooters and we were all full-time students in school, but there was really good coaching, and I think that plays a huge part. That's why I believed in picking up a coach like Thunderclaws coaches our younger players.
Yep.
Just drilling basics, having someone spot you on mistakes you might be doing, it helps a lot. And like, an easier example for people would be like, I used to play the piano too, and you are going to have bars where it's going to be harder to play, and you're going to have places like the intro where it's going to be easy. So if you're just going to play the whole game and play the whole piece of music throughout, trying to perfect that 2 bars that you have problem, isn't it more conducive and easy if you just pick the 2 bars and practice it 20 times over? I mean, that's how you practice piano, I assume, that's how I did it. So I think smart training and being in school, enough dedication, and I guess competitiveness to want to win makes a difference. And then, if possible, it's always good if you can get, like, I'm not sure if any teams have thought about doing this, but I used to get training camps in China and in Korea because they were really good. And because, like, I mean, you guys said earlier on, like, Sase Naniwa, they go over there and they endure all that hardship for, like, months and months, right? We just go for 10 days or 2 weeks.
Right.
So you sort of go through that training regimen and then learn a little bit from the local, for us, like, shooters and the coaches there. And then it helps, but then you come back so it doesn't, like, break up, like, and make you crazy because you're like getting up at 6 a.m. every day and lights out at 10 and no social life.
Yeah, I mean, I think training camps are. I think that's a really great concept because, you were just kind of comparing the Naniwa and Sase. I mean, the biggest difference between that is that the training camps are organized. Like they're focused. They're designed a certain way so that the time is efficient. And that's my whole thing about going to Korea, leave these players by themselves. It's like it's not efficient at all.
Well, I think that you're right because it's all about it's forcing the players slightly out of their comfort zone until they become comfortable again, then pushing them out of their comfort zone again until they become comfortable again, then pushing them out of their comfort zone again. And it takes staff to do that. It's not just the player themselves. The players can do that on their own, but it's not routine. It's not all. You don't find that a lot.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that isn't good training. I mean, I think it is a good training once you've reached like the highest level, where you're like, like Dan and I used to talk about, like turning the air conditioner off and playing like in 90 degrees in your room, or turning it super cold, just screwing around with your environment and seeing if you can still keep it at a high level. But I feel like we're not even close to that yet. I feel like Jingna had a great example of just training, if you're a musician, training music. I mean, when it comes to piano, that's what you do. You just play, certain runs over and over and over again, and then you piece the whole piece together, right? You don't play these games complete, like over and over and over again.
It's really funny you mention that, because my inspiration for getting into esports like I did was Drum Corps International, which is the same kind of thing where you go and do all these like 60 cities in 12 weeks, and you're 2,400 hours of rehearsal, and you're sweating your butt off. And I think the point that I'm trying to make here is, I think you're exactly right, Chris. I think it's when you leave the comforts of your home and you go somewhere to live there and train and be part of this program, it's a very dedicated experience, and it's going to really help you, regardless of where that program is.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great.
It's just a matter of who you are, right? If you're an up-and-coming player in the U.S., for example, I mean, being in a U.S. house is really going to help you. If you're Illusion, like being in the U.S. house has helped Illusion, but I mean, he needs to go to Korea. It's time, So it just depends on who you are and where you're at in your development, I guess.
Well, for him, it might be perfect because it'd be a new opportunity for him, a new way of seeing things. Right. It doesn't mean that Korea is the end all. It's just that now is his time where it's like my son grows up playing premier level soccer. He can only go so far, but there's always going to be that one time where he now needs to maybe go over to Europe for a month just to experience it. It doesn't mean that he's going to learn 10 times more. He's just going to learn 10 different things. And that's going to give him overall a better experience, I think.
That and the casters go, go!
Exactly. Oh, hey, there's a question from Raymond Jingna asking whether the jobs, I guess, that you posted for have been fulfilled yet. Because he's actually one of the guys that emailed you.
Okay. Oh, we're still going through the applications because I want to read all of them, and even if we reject people, I want to email everyone back because it's really nice that people are volunteering to help, right? So it's taking a bit of time. I'm sorry. I have literally been waking up, going through the application stuff, and then until I go to bed the last 5 days. Other than yesterday where I had a meeting outside, but that's it. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Let's see. We have another question here asking about, again, Jingna, the whole J Echo leaving. And J Echo is a pretty, J Echo is an interesting one because J Echo I wouldn't say has had a breakout yet, right? Yet,
but has a following.
Sorry, what was that?
But yeah, he does have a following of his own.
Yeah, but he definitely has a following, and I mean he's definitely has talent too. I mean for sure, Joe does. But yeah, what are your thoughts, or how did you feel about him leaving? And because that's a player that I would think that you would have wanted. He's kind of been part of your team for a long time, and kind of part of your core team. So I mean, talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I think this is the part where, earlier I said, the balance part comes in. There's always, the difference between how much you get offered that you would stay for and, how much whether you get offered so much more that you would leave for.
Right. And
I think Joe got a really good offer in terms of money that at the time, right now, we are not able to support because, like I said, I'm putting out of my own to all these players to events, and that is not cheap. So, and I mean, I do set a set budget. Of course, coming from myself is flexible, but there is kind of a set limit. I'm not just constantly going to give however much everyone asks for and wants,
Right.
So for Joe, it was not something that I could match, and if he can get such a good offer, then I'm happy for him. Yeah.
Okay. Has it affected the team at all?
The players are, of course, really, really sad because he is a core player, like you said, and the players definitely look up to him as well because he's also really a senior player on the team. But it happens, and they understand because I do talk to other players, and they also know the background of of this team and how I am supporting it. So we wish him good luck.
Okay, great. Any other questions you guys see there, John or Mark, on the stream chat here? Otherwise, we'll probably go into shout-outs and call it a night.
Well, somebody had asked, and I
okay.
just went to the website. They'd asked about what our thoughts were on that custom overlay thing. So I went to the Team Liquid thread.
Custom overlay?
Yeah, it's pretty kick-ass, man.
What is this?
It's actually
Game Heart Spectator
Yeah.
overlay.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. So I just thought I'd bring that up because they did ask in the chat.
Oh, okay.
It looks pretty nice.
Yeah, it looks
Something worth
interesting.
looking into. Tournaments probably should use something like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. So we talked about, isn't the idea of a team house the whole idea of getting people together so that they can practice and they can work on different things. And I know recently there's been some results where that you can see that's worked. I mean, I think Complexity's shown some results in that way, and I'm sure Quantic is starting to show some results in that if you really work as a team, where the idea is about improving your skill levels, then you'll start to see it rise. I mean, I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yep. I concur.
Are you guys on full scale promotion of Hawk right now, Mark?
Basically, I mean, yeah, dude, he just won ESWC.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
he's been having a great
He just started streaming like 3 minutes ago, actually. I just tweeted him and Facebooked him. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, we definitely want, we're asking TL for a trial feature. We're doing everything we can to try to get Hawk out there because when the iron strike's hot, you got to dance, right? That's how it works.
You got to promote it, man. Like,
Yeah,
nobody knew about ESWC. Like, nobody.
Yeah,
You guys got to, like, put up a little, like, graphic thing or whatever,
Yeah,
Yep.
like put up a TL thread with big ass picture of it.
Yeah,
on
actually,
Hawk, I mean.
when you showed me that, or actually Key Hunt showed me that, actually
Yeah.
before it was even published, whatever. But
Yeah, I remember.
I was completely impressed with that. Check Six did that after that big event where everyone kind of just had everyone did really well. I thought, why doesn't every team do this after every major event?
Yeah, seriously.
Every team should do it.
I was so
That's-
proud of Check 6 when they did that
I
graphic.
thought it was awesome. It was one of the coolest things.
One moment that you were proud of.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
That's
Oh,
harsh.
No, there are more moments, but that was really, I really liked that.
It is really good, though. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, Quantic could definitely put together something like that. I mean, those interviews with Gwen, Mark, those are freaking. That video is beautiful video.
Multi-camera and
Who
everything.
did who'd you hire? You hired a movie maker for that, didn't you? Like
Yeah, we have a guy on staff who's a videographer, and he has a red camera, and he has
dude, a red
Steadicam, all
camera.
that stuff.
He's
Yeah,
got
it's pretty
3
cool.
red cameras, right? Or just one? Was it just one?
Well, he had just had one red there, and
Oh,
then
God.
Ian, one of my coners, he's a big guy into photography and video and stuff, and so yeah, we actually used for those interviews we shot with 3 DSLRs, high-end DSLRs, but
Oh, okay. Oh, well,
Yeah.
some of the interviews in like the actual venue, I think, was with the red camera. By the way, guys that don't know what the red camera is, those are like, I mean, depending on which one you get, but I think in particular that one was like $50,000-$60,000 cameras.
like 100K in camera, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's really cool. But all right, guys, why don't we kind of wrap it up and go on into any shout-outs that you guys might have. We'll start out with Jingna, since I'm sure Conan has like a laundry list full of them. So.
Well, thank you, Steel Series, Steven Art, GG Well Played Apparel, and Science Work, and my team.
Check out her work, guys. I mean, her photography work is unbelievable.
Oh, follow me on Twitter. It's just
Yeah.
Zmotion.
Yeah, Zmotion, and actually, it's zhangjingna.com too, right? That's your website.
But yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not updated.
All right, Conan. Let's see
All
the
right, here
list.
we
Now,
go.
you're bringing up that list. I'm sure
That
Alex
page.
and Scott sent you.
Yeah,
But,
of course. Thank you to my team, Evil Geniuses, and our sponsors, Raid Call, Intel Extreme Masters, Monster Energy, SteelSeries, Kingston HyperX, Beyond Gaming, Sapphire, and Inwind. And shout-outs to all my fans, everyone who's watching the stream. Shout-out to Everise and Scarlett, who are watching the stream right now.
Scarlett's watching? All right.
Yeah, good. And, yeah, thanks for having me.
No, yeah.
What's your favorite monster drink, Suppy?
God.
I prefer the low-carb monster drink. I like to...
Yeah, too, that's my favorite, too.
Actually,
Is that like metabolic boost?
I was expecting him to say, I like the blue one.
The blue one.
so that was actually a better answer than I was expecting. Good deal.
Yeah.
Mark, any shout-outs?
Absolutely. You know, as always, Razer, DB Vision, Twitch, Machinima Versus, Asus Republic of Gamers, and our partner StarTel.
Awesome.
And Hawk, who's now streaming.
Go watch him.
Go watch him.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll have Hawk on Pro Corner soon. John, you go ahead.
Shout-outs to all of those 100 and so people that decided to stay up late with us tonight.
Yeah.